Namaskar and very good afternoon. Friends, dear learners, I, Dr. Renu Tomar, wishes you Happy Women's Day. Friends, today we are talking about empowering women through education and employment. In my previous lecture, I talked about that what has been the status of women in India particularly. In the Vedic period, women had access to the education, but in fact, when we have a look at the scriptures like Rig Veda, Upanishads, there we see that there are several women who have been cited as sages and seers. Women have enjoyed almost equivalent position and rights in the early Vedic era. However, after 500 BC, the position of women started to decline. In fact, the position of women in ancient India was vital. But after the India has been a colony to the English people, and before that it was invaded by so many people, the culture which provided equality to the woman got corroded, and the result was that the woman began to be cited as someone who is a property, and that is why we had social evils like Sati Pratha, we had social evils like child marriage. Friends, if we have a look at the women education from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, then we find that as far as education is concerned, then basic education has been seen as an end in itself. It is the foundation of lifelong learning and human development, unquote, Ramchandran in 1998. So, after the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the basic education, even in the case of the woman, has been seen as something which is very much eminent and which is very important. So, why are still we are concerned about the education of the woman? As we discussed in our previous lecture, that the participation of women even in the higher education has improved and increased. And what is the result of participation of women in the education? It has been seen throughout the world by various researchers, may it be the underdeveloped countries or developing countries and even in the developed nations, that wherever the education of the girls was improved, the educational level was improved, that has demonstrated the clear impact on the health and economic future of the young woman. In fact, when woman knows that how she is being affected from the health perspective, then she takes care of the fact. In fact, even it has been seen that the various diseases related to sex are also being controlled because the women are educated. In fact, that improves the prospects of their entire community. Friends, if we go back to the past, then we understand historically women have taken part in all spheres of life with courage and gusto. In fact, we have a mythology which is rich with stories of highly educated and evolved women. One can trace the historical evidence of ancient Indian education to the 3rd century BC, when the education, where the woman had great impact. Even if we have a look at the Buddhism, then we see that the Buddhism was spread even by the woman monk. So, this is the nation which has the history of having universities, which has the history of having education, which not only flourished in the nation itself but was also internationally renowned. We have the universities like Nalanda, Vikramashila, Takshila, which were established, and these universities flourished from about 5th century to 13th century. Still, education has been found to be restricted to certain strata, and in fact it was not available to all the stratas, and particularly women. Despite the fact that the Buddhism did advocate the education of women, but still the women education was not perceived as something which was very important, and usually men were sent to the universities. What were the obstacles in the women education? If we have a look at the obstacles in women education, then we can divide them into 3 categories. Now let us take each categories one by one. First is systematic issues. Systematic issues that we don't have a system for women education. How are we not able to place the system? We are not able to place systems in place as far as women education is concerned. Just to give an example, we have the dysfunctional schools. Dysfunctional schools means that we don't have the teachers in the schools. We don't have the basic toilets. We don't have the clean water. The quality of the school is degraded. We have the teachers who are not really motivated as far as teaching is concerned. In fact, there have been researches which have found that the girls are not being sent to the school by their parents. The reason is that the schools don't have female or woman teachers. In fact, they have male teachers, and this is also one of the reasons why the girl children are not being sent to the schools. As we all know that the government has done a lot to have the toilets in place. The reason is this is a basic need, basic amenity which is required for any society to become functional. And this was also found to be one of a very important component for schools becoming dysfunctional, that is lack of toilets. Another problem which we usually talk about whenever we talk about obstacles of women education are that there are not existence of multiple delivery. What does that means? This is the problem which has been catered to by NEP. When we find that the children, even the women who have given up education at certain level, then they will have to start again from the scratch. So this was the problem which was there in the system, which has been looked into by NEP 2020, when they said that even after 10 years a child can come back and join the education system with the credits which he or she has earned, and on that basis she can continue the education. So this was one of a systematic issue, that we didn't have multiple in-out entries in the education system. That has been ensured by the NEP 2020, and I think that this will really have a very positive impact on our education system, particularly the higher education system. Another important problem which has been seen in the system of education is particularly whenever we have a view, we see the researchers have identified the obstacles in women education, that we need to work upon more non-formal education and informal education coming at par with the formal education. That means the quality of non-formal education and informal education needs to be improved, and it has to be brought to the same level in which formal education system is, and in fact even the formal education system needs to be improved in such a manner that formal education system can be provided in a multiple delivery level. That means we can have the non-formal, formal and informal education system coming together, working together for the education of the women. So this is something which is very much important. This is also something which has been looked into by NEP 2020. Another obstacle which women education has is that we don't have the residential school for women. We don't have that satellite system for providing education to the women by utilizing the technology. In fact, even the timing or the calendars are such that they don't suit. To give you an example, when a girl at her home is supposed to work at home and take care of her sibling because her mother is going out as a maid or in the farm working as a farming labor, then how do we expect the child to go and study in the school when she is expected to take care of her sibling, her younger brother or sister? So it is timing also which is important, it is calendar also which is important. Calendar is keeping in view, calendar has not been decided by the fact that there are certain months in which the children may be required in the home, so much so that they cannot really get back to the school or go back to the school. So this is also something which as a system which we need to look into. Then we have the second aspect which when we are talking about the obstacles of the women education, the second aspect which we need to work upon is content and process of education. Whenever we talk about content and process of education, usually we see the stories about boys and men soldiers. We really don't have the stories citing women soldiers. We don't have stories citing women pilots. So because of the gender stereotyping, we are developing the mentality of the girls in particular in such a manner that there are certain streamlined subjects or certain streamlined professions to which only she is well suited. Like she can be a nurse, she can be a doctor, she can be a teacher. Why can't she be an artist? Why can't she be a writer? Why can't we have a woman working in marketing? So, because of the fact that we have provided gender stereotyping to the education also, to the professions also. When we talk about defense, as soon as we say defense, what do we perceive? We perceive young, handsome men marching strongly. Do we really perceive women marching? Usually, no. This is gender stereotyping. This is something which we need to change. Another important problem or obstacle is we have the gender bias, and which is perpetuated in our society, perpetuated in the mind of both the gender. Here we are not concerned about only men. We are not saying that they are the men who stops or who control the education of the woman, who are the one who are giving obstacle to the women's education. No, this is also the mentality of the woman at large, that the girls are supposed to be educated to certain level only or in certain fields only, and they should not be provided the kind of a freedom because they are the girls and they are the one who needs protection. And friends, to some extent it is right also. So, we need to change of the society, that may it be the boy, may it be the girl, we don't have to consider any gender as someone who needs protection or someone who can be exploited if someone steps out of the shoes. That is something which we need to work upon. Another important, whenever we talk about the obstacle due to the content and the process of education, is relevance of curriculum. It has been seen that as far as the curriculum is concerned, it is so rigid and it is so of not importance in the practical, social and professional life, that usually parents see that this education is waste. And when it comes to education of boys and girls, then they say because it is waste, and it is waste for both the genders, but still boys, as to have an identity, they should be sent to the school. It may turn out to be an investment. But for the woman, because as we discussed in our previous lecture also, that whenever we talk about the woman education, the parents don't have that altruistic attitude towards education of the woman. They don't see education of boys and education and girl as equal or equally important. They don't see that if there is constraint due to the budget, then they don't see that the girl should be educated, because they find that girls being educated will not have any importance to them in their old age when they will be requiring their own children, because the boys will be there, the girls will be married off. So, curriculum has to be changed and it has to be made more purposeful, so that whenever the child goes to the school, it is not just in the context of the woman, it is also in the context of the kids at large, particularly the children who come from the lower economic level, and for them the education is a luxury. And because education is a luxury, it is very important that we make the curriculum relevant. It should be relevant to such an extent that after each class the child should feel, the parent should feel, the society should feel that there has been certain learning. How to make it relevant? By making it skill oriented, by making it social demand oriented, by making it market demand oriented. So, it has to be made relevant and it has to be joined to the social needs, to the language which is spoken in that society. This is also very important problem which is seen, that the language has a very key role as an obstacle of education, because of the fact that the kind of a language which is used, and usually that is English. Whenever we talk about higher education, we don't have a good library in other languages. In fact, this is a problem, that whenever the child in the higher education, the student in the higher education wants to look for the material or the content, then he or she can only find the content in English and that has to be translated further, or they will find the content which will be of the very lower quality. So, this is also an area which we need to work upon, that is introducing the content of the education, introducing the processes of the education in the language which is understood, spoken by the children at large, by the girls at large. So, having the education in the languages, in the languages like Kannada, languages which are spoken by the children, the mother tongue. This is very important. Another issue which has been seen as far as this obstacle which has been provided in the form of content and the process of education is that the education is not joyful. And due to the fact that education is not joyful, the learning is absolutely boring. So, the children, it may be the girls or may be the boys, they don't really look ahead, they don't really want to go to the school. In fact, it is very important that we add and we make education joyful. The learning has to be made joyful. Now, the question is, how can we make learning joyful? Whenever we talk about joyful learning, that means learning through games, learning with the help of teaching aids, learning which should be oriented to the day-to-day problem. That is the kind of a learning which is joyful. And this was a question for which the Yashpal committee was also addressing the same kind of a problem. It was seen that the learning not being joyful and due to the fact that the students had heavy bags but no knowledge, and the learning not being the joyful was a very, very prominent problem and an obstacle to the education processes. This is also one of the reasons that why the children and the girls in particular don't want to go to the school. If they have a choice between going to the school and taking care of their sibling, then they would say that rather than getting bored in the school, it will be much better that we stay at home and take care of the sibling, and meanwhile we will also get a chance to entertain ourselves through television or through radio or through FM. So, it is very important that we make learning joyful to such an extent that children want to come to the school, and school is a place where they can feel that that is something like a game to them and they really enjoy it. Another important problem or obstacle which has been seen is ready access to books. Why don't we have ready access to book, and how it can be resolved? The simple way to make it resolve is that providing online content, and if we can provide lot of online content, then naturally the ready access to books can be resolved. And why don't we have ready access to the books? Because of the fact that the schools are placed in some remote areas, we don't have the library some nearby, or the books are not reaching in time, and the result is that the children are getting the books by the time that they have studied even half the syllabus. So, and we are not just talking about the textbooks here, we are also talking about the reference books, we are also talking about the story books, we are also talking about the magazines, because they are also a piece of literature which are very important from the perspective of the child, from the perspective of educating the child, because even the magazines, papers, they are the educational materials, they are the reading materials which make them literate of the political scenario, of the social scenario, of the economic scenario. So, it is very important that we can ensure the content of the education, we can ensure the process of the education is in place. Another obstacle is due to the fact that we have the high level of poverty, as we talked in our last lecture also, that the budget is a problem. When we talk about giving education to their children, then the parents usually find themselves powerless due to the fact they don't have budget to educate both boys and girls. So, when the choice comes because of the budget or because of the constraint, they prefer to send the boys to the school and the girls be at home and taking care of their sibling. Because of the society, also because of the society doesn't think that it is really important for girl to be educated, girl to be employable, because society think that girl should be, if at all she is to be educated, then she should be just educated in such a manner that she can do the basic mathematics when she go out to buy groceries or buy some medicines. She should be able to read those medicines, she should be able to read the numbers. So basic literacy level is something which they perceive that the woman might be having mastery over, because of the perception of the society that they don't see the woman as potential earner, they don't see woman as potential employable asset. So that is why the woman education is not seen with the positive perspective. So it is a psychological problem. Another important problem whenever we talk about this is the powerlessness. Despite the fact that the women in the house, the mothers in the house would like their girls to go to the school, go to the higher education and be educated, because usually it is seen that the mothers don't want their girls, their daughters to be in the same situation in which they are, doing nothing important and still working from morning to evening, but still being labeled as useless laborers. So that is because of the powerlessness of the woman in the family, powerlessness of the woman in the society. That is also one of the reasons why women education is not being viewed positively or strongly. Other obstacles which we need to talk about whenever we talk about economic, society and the culture, how to do it? Of course, we will have to improve the status of the woman. How the status of the woman be improved? We will have to change the perception of the society at large. First of all, the perception of the woman has to be changed. Perception of the woman has to be changed in such a manner that the woman has to perceive herself as being equal and independent entity, a person who is capable and able of taking decisions, is capable and able of controlling her own life. Secondly, we shall be able to change the perception of the society as far as the status of the woman is concerned. Other important role which as a government, as a nation, which we have to do is that the cost of the family has to be improved. If the family will have higher budget, then naturally the chances of girls also going to the schools and to the higher education are higher. So the cost of the family has to be increased. And another problem which is the biggest obstacle is child labor. Child labor, when we are talking about the child labor, it is not just the children who are serving as a labor in the factories, in the farmhouses or in the dhabas. We are also here referring to the girl children who are working as child labor in their own home, because they are doing domestic chores. And are the domestic work so important that we are taking away their right to education, their right to be happy, their right to laugh, their right to live the life as a child. So it is farm or non-farm work. We shall be taking away children from every kind of work. In fact, it is not so that government hasn't done in this direction. Government has done a lot when they made through right to education RTE, they made it mandatory that the children till the age of 14 are to be ensured to be in the school, are to be ensured to go to the school, so that there should not be any kind of a child labor, may it be at home or may it be in the farmhouse or may it be at dhaba. But still this could not be ensured. Why this could not be ensured? Due to certain social and economic problem, like the cost of the family is very low. Other is that the status of the woman is not being seen as a child labor if she is working at home. That is something seen as her training to become a good housewife when she is married off. So because of these facts, because of these perception, it is seen that the woman education is not getting the kind of a place it should be getting in the society or in the world at large. Friends, I think this is the reason why NEP 2020 has talked about RTE to be extended till age 18. If till 18 we ensure that every child is in the school, may it be the boy, may it be the girl, then naturally we will have the very positive results as far as the women education is concerned, the girls education is concerned. We shall be able to play an important role in the education of the girls. In fact, it is seen because of the poverty that usually the families are caught up in the survival battles, and women also don't perceive themselves herself as an independent. In fact, it has been seen that there are trend of child marriage, there are problems due to the post puberty practices. They are also the reasons why the girls are being not sent into the school, because statistics have proven that as far as the enrollment of the girls is concerned in the primary education is quite good, but the dropout in the secondary education is huge. That means the society doesn't approve of a girl going for a secondary education. Why is it so? Because they don't see that secondary education is playing an important role in her progression or progression of the society. Other issue is that they see that in the secondary education the girls can be physically, emotionally harmed because of the fact we have the gender issues that we see that as far as the girl is concerned, they can be harmed physically. So, because they can be harmed physically, so to be on the safe side, let us not send them to the school. Let us get them married, and once they are married, we are free of the responsibility, because that is the basic responsibility which we see as far as the girls is concerned. Educating the girl is not seen as a responsibility of the parents. So, it is a negative attitude of the parents towards the girl child and her education, which is a major reason for the lower female literacy rate, particularly of the secondary education. As we have talked about, when we talk about the parents' attitude, if due to the fact that there is lower budget and the lack of altruistic attitude of the parents, which is resulting in parents not preferring to send girls to the school. Another problem which has been viewed is that because of the distance of the school, because of the gender segregated society, as we said that the schools lack female teachers, so and India has a gender segregated society, and the result is that we have the low female literacy rate, because parents will not prefer to send the girls to the school. Now, let us also talk about that why women education is necessary. Women education is necessary. Number one, they are half the population, and if they are educated, if they are earning, they are contributing in the development of the nation, then naturally we can perceive that where our nation will be. So, looking at a bigger picture, at a newer picture, we understand that the woman education is very important, not just from the perspective of better family planning, not just from the perspective of diminishing infant mortality, child mortality, but also from the perspective that if she is employable, then she will be able to contribute in the development of the nation. Now, friends, now let us also try to understand that are really women not contributing? Are they not part of the labor forces? They are part of the labor forces, but they are not part of the paid labor forces. So, their labor is not part of the statistics because of the fact that as far as financial development is concerned, the women are employed, most of the women are employed where their contribution is overlooked. Like when they are working in their own homes, is their contribution looked at? No. When they are working at maids, is their contribution taken into consideration? No. If they are working at the farms as a labor, is their contribution taken into consideration? No. And in fact, if we talk about the employment opportunities also to the women, we see that educated women are employable only to the corporate houses, educational institution, and when we have look at the statistics of the entrepreneurs in the women, we find even 7 to 8% women out of 100%. As far as the entrepreneur is concerned. So, if we don't consider women on as far as being able to contribute in the business, so that is why as the perception of the Indian society is such that the woman has to contribute to the family first. Woman has to contribute to the home first, and her contribution to the economy or to the family is not taken to be of very serious nature. It is not, and if she is working in a home, then that is not accounted for in the official statistics. These are the basic reason why why we are very concerned about changing the employment statistics. How to change those employment statistics? We shall be keeping in view, we shall also be gathering the statistics related to the women plowing fields, harvesting crops, working on farms, weaving, making handicrafts, as well as working in household industries. We shall be taking that statistics also in the viewpoint. Only then we will be able to understand that whether the women are really contributed in our economy. So, because of the fact that we are showing the woman as being passive as far as economy of the country is concerned, that is also one of the main reason why we are so much concerned about why the women women are not perceived as employable or women as contributing in the development of the nation. So, this perception of the world needs to be changed. That means woman has to be brought from informal sectors to the formal sectors. What are the formal sectors? Formal sectors will be hospitals, marketing firms, factories, boutiques, beauty parlor, corporate sectors. Why are we restricting women to these formal sectors only? Because usually whenever we think of women, these are the sectors which we think of: schools, universities, beauty parlors, boutiques, or hospitals. These are the kind of jobs which are usually seen for the woman. This attitude needs to be changed. In fact, the share of women employed in mining or quarrying, that also needs to be taken. In fact, there are industries in like electricity, gas, water, construction. Why don't we have women? Women are working there in labor, but are they being considered? Are they being considered as someone who is contributing in the economy of the nation? So, friends, let us try to understand that education and employment is very much related. Similarly, if we want to empower the woman, then we have to improve the employability of the woman. How that has to be done? First, we have to educate them in the skill. We have to train them in certain traits, and also meanwhile, side by side, provide the kind of a sector, the formal sector, in which they can be working and contributing in the development of the nation as well as in the family. So, when we talk about the woman, we shall be talking about moderate level of education. We shall also be talking about the higher level of education, because it is not so that the women with the higher education of level are only contributing. In fact, the women with the moderate level of education are contributing more as far as the research is concerned. And this is how the theories of human capital predicts that if we improve the skill of the woman, then naturally the greater will be their opportunity to earn the higher wages. And this way we will be able to increase women labor force participation and improve the development of the nations, and that way we would be able to soon be termed as developed countries. On this note, I, Dr. Renu Tomar, is signing off with a promise to join you again on some new topic. Namaskar. Have a good day.